Joining us now is France 24's Claire Paccalin. She's here in Paris. Claire, President Zelensky has been known to sort of tailor his message to every country a bit differently. Do you expect that that will be the case here?
Yes, he's proved very effective at adapting his address to the audience that he is speaking to. We saw that when he spoke to the US Congress. He asked Americans to think about the trauma of the Pearl Harbor attacks, the trauma of 9/11. He also, when he was speaking to the British House of Commons, he compared Ukraine's fight against Russia to Britain's stand against Nazi Germany in the Second World War. He even channeled Winston Churchill, saying that Ukrainians would fight in the forests, in the streets, on the shores, and in the fields. So it'll be very interesting to see how he'll tailor the message to the French lower house of parliament, where I am now, as well as the Senate. They are meeting in the Senate building, which is not far away from where I am here in Paris. It'll be interesting to see which historical references he uses when he's speaking to French lawmakers, and through them, of course, French people. Of course, he has also been making requests in recent weeks. He's been reiterating his request for a no-fly zone over his country, harsher sanctions on Russia, particularly when it comes to imports of Russian oil and gas. And he may also speak about perhaps Ukraine's possible road to the European Union, perhaps Ukraine joining the EU. That might be something he mentions too. And of course, we do expect an update on the ground. We know that Mariupol, that southwestern port city, is still under siege. More than 100,000 people are trapped inside. So expect the Ukrainian president to give us a bit more information about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine right now.
Well, Claire, of course, here in France, we're in the midst of a presidential campaign. There are a lot of political differences. Do you think we'll see a rare moment of unity in response to Zelensky's message today?
What's interesting is that in the last month, we have seen unity and solidarity across the political spectrum when it comes to support for Ukraine and criticism of Vladimir Putin. Although, of course, we are in the middle of a presidential election campaign. There were 12 candidates. One of them is Emmanuel Macron himself, the current president, and they do differ when it comes to how they believe Vladimir Putin should be treated. When it comes, for instance, whether he should be called a dictator or not, there are differences. We saw Anne Hidalgo, the left-wing candidate. We saw Valérie Pécresse, the right-wing candidate, as well as the Greens candidate, Yannick Jadot. They have all called him a dictator. Emmanuel Macron, on the other hand, says that calling him a dictator isn't very helpful for him. He wants to continue dialoguing with him. He wants to dialogue with him and explore these diplomatic routes towards peace. And on the far right, Marine Le Pen, Eric Zemmour, as well as on the far left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, they all agree with him. They've stopped short of calling Vladimir Putin a dictator. There's also the issue of imports of Russian oil and gas. That's something that France, as well as many other European countries, are reluctant to stop just yet. They know the impact that will have on the economy. They know the impact that will have on French people when it comes to filling up their cars with petrol, heating their homes. So that's something that for the moment France and Europe have been reluctant to deal with, really stopping those imports of Russian oil and gas. Of course, we know the Ukrainian President Zelensky, his argument and what he will be arguing is that it's worth the sacrifice, given the danger that the Russian aggression is having on the very doors of Europe and Ukraine, that threat, giving up on those imports of Russian oil and gas, it's worth the sacrifice, according to the Ukrainian president.
Okay, France 24's Claire Paccalin reporting for us here in Paris, of course.